Hello guys, so this is one of my other videos which I will talk about the six trig functions and how you can find them. So let's start with example 2, letter A. So over here it says sine theta equals 5 over 6, and we need to sketch a triangle corresponding to this trig function, and we need to find all the 6 trig functions. So sine theta. So first we know it's a positive number. So let's sketch a graph. So this is quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we know quadrant 1 has all the positive numbers. And so since sine of theta is a positive fraction with no negative number, then the fraction or the triangle will be in the first quadrant. So, let's see. So, sine is opposite or hypotenuse. So let's create triangle here. So here's theta. So this is opposite, which is 5. And the hypotenuse is the color in red, which is this. Because this is a 90-degree angle. So this side would be 5, and this side would be 6. Because 5 is in the opposite side of theta, and 6 is a hypotenuse. So just since it's the largest side. Now we need to find other 6 trig functions. So we already know sine of theta is 5 over 6. Oops. So let's find this side first. So I did my calculator Pythagorean theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And you square root c squared. So I got square root of 11. And we need to find cosine of theta. Remember that cosine of theta is adjacent over hypotenuse. So it's this side over here. Another way to remember this, as I told in my previous videos, is so, ka, and then toa. So cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so that'll be square root of 11 over 6. Now the other trig function is tangent. So from SOHCAHTOA, TOA, tangent equals to opposite over adjacent. So tangent of theta will be 5 with square root of 11. Now let's find the reverse trig functions. So cosecant of theta. So since sine theta equals 5 over 6, cosecant will equal 6 over 5. Now, cotangent of theta. So since tangent of theta equals 5 over square root of 11, cotangent of theta will equal square root of 11 over 5. And then secant of theta will be reciprocal of cosine of theta, which will be 6 over square root of 11. So that's how you do the first example. Now let's do the secant of theta, which equals 3. So to make this easier, we know secant of theta is reverse of cosine of theta. So let's cross out secant of theta. So cosine of theta will equal 1 over 3. So you find cosine of theta by doing reciprocal of 3, since secant of theta and cosine of theta are both reciprocals of each other. Now let's sketch out. Since it says, as I forgot to mention earlier, it says over here first quad only. So that means first quadrant. So both of these fractions are supposed to be in first quadrant. So secant cosine. Oops. Let's do it here. So cosine of theta. Remember, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So one will be here, adjacent. Here's theta, by the way. And the hypotenuse will be here, the largest side. Let's highlight it. So this is adjacent. Here, and the hypotenuse is 3, just here. Now let's find the 6 trig functions. So we already know cosine of theta equals 1 over 3. I'll write secant of theta last, so it's easier. Let's do sine of theta. Oh, we need to find this side here first. So for Pythagorean theorem, to find that side, we do 1 squared plus b squared equals 3 squared. So 1 plus b squared equals 9. So you subtract 9 from both sides, minus 1, cross that out. So b squared equals 8. So b equals square root of 8. So then this side equals square root of 8. Now we can do sine of theta, which is opposite over hypotenuse. So square root of 8 over 3. So this side, hold on, blue. So this side over here is the opposite side of the triangle, which is square root of 8. Now let's do tangent of theta. So tangent of theta, which is opposite over adjacent, it'll be square root of 8 over 1, which just equals square root of 8. Now let's find the other trig functions. So we already know secant of theta equals 3 because the information is already given here. Now let's do cosecant of theta. So cosecant of theta, which is reciprocal of sine of theta, it'll be 3 over square root of 8. Now cotangent of theta, it'll be the reciprocal of tangent, so it'll be 1 over square root of 8. So this is how you do it. So you just, in this part of the video, I just found the 6 trig functions by drawing out a triangle and sketching graphs and quadrants. So yeah. Now what is this? Example 3. Use the given function values and trigonometric identities to find and indicate functions. So it's the same thing, except they give you the angles to find, or the trig functions to find. So we know over here that tangent of theta equals 3/4. So let's sketch our graph here. And let's not do it there, let's do it here. So tangent of theta, 3/4. So it'll be in the first quadrant because it's all positive numbers. Oops. So theta. I remember from SOHCAHTOA that it will be opposite, like tangent of theta equals opposite over adjacent. So this side will be the opposite since it's across from theta, and this side will be adjacent. So 4 is adjacent and 3 is the opposite. Now let's do Pythagorean theorem. So let's label it first. 3, oops, will be 3, 4. Now by doing the Pythagorean theorem, we do 3 squared plus 4 squared equals c squared. So 9 plus 16 equals c squared. 16 plus 9 equals 25. So after you square root it, c equals 5. So this side is 5. Oops. And that side is the hypotenuse. Now let's find cosine of theta. So cosine of theta, remember from SOHCAHTOA, it's adjacent over hypotenuse. So it'll be, oops, 4 over 5. Tangent of theta is opposite over adjacent. And it's already given what tangent of theta is. So we just write here 3/4. Cosecant of theta. So sine of theta is opposite over hypotenuse. So that's 3/5. So sine equals 3/5. But it's asking for cosecant of theta. So you just do reciprocal of 3/5, which is 5/3. And cosine 9 minus theta equals sine of theta. Remember the formulas that were in the previous video. And then sine of theta, as we already solved here, it's 3/5. So this is how you do it. Now let's go to the bottom part. Angle of elevation, angle of depression. So the angle above the horizontal that an observer must look to see an object that is higher than the observer is the angle of elevation. An angle of depression is the angle that's below the horizontal that an observer must look to see an object that is lower than the observer. So let's highlight. So this side over here is angle of depression because it's going down. Because whenever you feel down, you feel depressed. So this is angle of depression. And this side, right here, the angle, sorry. Let's see. This is the angle of elevation. Because elevation means like towards the top, you're going towards. So, towards here is the angle of elevation. And so angle of depression is the angle that's basically like going down. An angle of elevation that's like pointing upwards. So, yeah. Let's see the next part. Alternate interior angles. So over here, it says angle C is congruent to angle F. So angle C is congruent to angle F. Angle A is congruent to angle E. So angle A is congruent to angle E. And angle A is congruent to angle D. So angle A is congruent to angle D. So this over here is alternate interior angles because angle C and angle F, they're alternating and they're inside this space, which is interior. So interior basically means inside. Angle A is congruent to angle E. So let me erase. So angle A is corresponding to this angle. And corresponding angles are congruent. And angle A is congruent to angle D. These are vertical angles over here. And vertical angles are congruent. This should be a review, as you guys might have learned it in grade 2 or in grade 3. Now let's do this other problem. A biologist wants to know the width W of a river to properly set instruments for studying the pollutants in the water. From point A directly across the sea from point C, the biologist walks to B and sights to point C. From the sighting, it is determined that theta equals 58 degrees. How wide is the river? Verify your result numerically. So in the drawing, let's make a triangle first. In the drawing, it shows here. No, that's not a good triangle. Here. Here. Okay. So in the picture, it says this is 100 feet. This, let's see, the problem biologist wants to know the width W of a river. So we're trying to find here. And this side is theta, which equals 58 degrees. So now we're trying to find this side, W. So we use tangent. So tangent of theta from what does happen? So Toa. And so since this is opposite, and we already know what adjacent is. Adjacent is the side that's next to theta, which is this side. So we do tangent of 58 equals W over 100. And now we do 100 and tangent of 58 equals W. So how I got this is that I times 100 over by each side, so here, and then times 100 over 1. And now to find what the width is, 100 times tangent of 58 equals 160. I just calculated my calculator. Equals 103 feet. So the width of the river equals 160.03 feet. So in this video, we talked about the alternate interior angles, corresponding angles, and vertical angles, and how like they're congruent. And we also talked about like the problems, the question over here. And just for side information, this pointing upwards, this angle over here is angle of elevation. So that's angle of elevation. And because it's not like going down, it's not depressed, it's not down. And here we found a trig functions by knowing just one trig function, we can find other trig functions. And here we did the same thing. So, yeah.